Wisdom, wisdom, that's the test. Which rival wisdom team is best? 52 teams of 8 antique rival wisdoms compete to do the future a favor and guide a life at stop2think.com. Team quote 47.1. Stronger by weakness, wiser men become. Edmund Burke 1729–1797. This paradoxical quote from Edmund Burke contains deep wisdom about how adversity and vulnerability contribute to personal growth. Let me analyze its meaning. The quote captures the counterintuitive truth that our weaknesses and struggles can be sources of strength and wisdom. Here's how. Through weakness we gain strength by learning our limitations and working within them, developing resilience by overcoming difficulties, building empathy from experiencing vulnerability, finding creative solutions to compensate for shortcomings, growing humbler and more adaptable. The path to wisdom often requires acknowledging what we don't know, learning from failures and mistakes, understanding our own frailties, gaining perspective through hardship, developing compassion through experiencing difficulties. Burke's insight aligns with the ancient concept that true strength often comes through embracing, rather than denying our weaknesses. This parallels modern psychological understanding that accepting our vulnerabilities often leads to greater emotional strength and better judgment. The quote also suggests that wisdom isn't just accumulated knowledge, but rather understanding deepened by experience, including experiences of limitation and failure. Team quote 47.2. The game is never lost till won. George Crabbe 1754–1832. This quote from George Crabbe expresses a subtle and sophisticated insight about uncertainty and perseverance. Let me analyze its meaning. The apparent paradox of the quote reveals several important truths. First, it reminds us that outcomes remain uncertain until the very end. What seems like an inevitable victory can turn into defeat, and what looks like certain defeat might transform into victory. This applies not just to games, but to life's challenges in general. The quote also contains a warning about premature celebration for those ahead, resignation for those behind, assumptions about results, relaxation of effort. There's a deeper wisdom here about maintaining mental focus until the true end, humility when leading, hope when trailing, full engagement throughout. This philosophy contradicts both overconfidence and defeatism, suggesting instead a balanced approach that recognizes the fluid nature of any contest or challenge until its actual conclusion. Crabbe's insight resonates with both competitive and personal endeavors, reminding us that outcomes often remain in flux longer than we might assume, and that maintaining proper perspective and effort throughout is crucial. Team quote 47.3. Friendship is essentially a partnership. Aristotle 384 BC, 322 BC. This quote from Aristotle captures a fundamental insight about the nature of friendship by comparing it to a partnership. Let me explore its meaning. The comparison to partnership suggests that true friendship involves mutual investment and commitment, shared responsibilities and efforts, reciprocal support and care, common goals and interests, balanced give and take. Aristotle viewed friendship not as a passive relationship or mere emotional attachment, but as an active collaboration between people. This suggests that friendship requires active maintenance and nurturing, clear communication, trust and reliability, shared ethical values, working through difficulties together. The comparison to partnership also implies that friendship, like any good partnership, requires both parties to bring value to the relationship and maintain certain standards of behavior and commitment. It's not just about feeling good in each other's presence, but about creating something meaningful together. This view aligns with modern understanding of healthy relationships, where mutual support and shared growth are seen as key elements of lasting friendship. Team quote 47.4. Pessimism leads to weakness, optimism to power. William James 1842–1910. This quote from William James, the pioneering American psychologist and philosopher, reflects his understanding of how mindset shapes our capabilities. Let me analyze its meaning. The quote captures a profound insight about the self-fulfilling nature of our outlook. Here's how it works. Pessimism leads to weakness because it creates self-imposed limitations, reduces motivation to try, drains energy through negative anticipation, makes obstacles seem insurmountable, justifies inaction or retreat. Optimism generates power by expanding our sense of possibility, energizing us to take action, building resilience in face of setbacks, encouraging creative problem-solving, maintaining momentum through difficulties. This aligns with James's broader philosophical pragmatism and his work on the psychology of belief. He understood that our beliefs and attitudes aren't just passive reflections of reality. They actively shape our experience and capabilities. The quote doesn't suggest blind optimism, but rather points to the practical advantage of maintaining a constructive outlook. This connects to modern psychological research on concepts like learned optimism and growth mindset, which confirm that our expectations often influence our outcomes. Team quote 47.5. Live your life and forget your age. Jean-Paul 1763 to 1825. This quote from Jean-Paul, born Johann Paul Friedrich Richter, conveys a liberating perspective about aging and living. Let me explore its meaning. The quote challenges the common tendency to let our age define or limit our choices and experiences. It suggests that real living comes from focusing on present experiences and opportunities, personal passions and interests, continuous growth and learning, authentic self-expression, active engagement with life, rather than being constrained by age-based social expectations, self-imposed limitations, cultural stereotypes about age, fear of being too old or too young, conventional timelines for life stages. The quote advocates for a timeless approach to living where chronological age becomes secondary to the actual experience of life. It suggests that the richness of life comes not from counting years, but from making years count through meaningful engagement and authentic living. Team quote 47.6. Everything that is done in the world is done by hope. Martin Luther 1483 to 1546. Let me provide a concise analysis of this profound quote by Martin Luther. Martin Luther's statement, "Everything that is done in the world is done by hope," is a powerful philosophical observation about human motivation. At its core, the quote suggests that hope is the fundamental driving force behind all human actions and endeavors. Key insights. Hope is more than just an emotion. It's a catalyzing energy that propels human beings to act. Every human achievement, from small daily tasks to grand historical movements, is rooted in some form of hope. Hope represents our belief in potential, our ability to imagine and work towards a different future. Historical context. Luther, a key figure of the Protestant Reformation, knew intimately how hope could drive transformative change. As a monk who challenged the established Catholic Church, he understood that hope gives people the courage to challenge existing structures and pursue radical transformation. Psychological perspective. The quote implies that hope is a fundamental human motivator, the bridge between current reality and potential futures, the energy that turns contemplation into action. Whether it's a farmer planting crops, a student studying, or a social activist working for change, hope underlies the belief that effort can lead to meaningful outcomes. Team quote 47.7. He that humbleth himself wishes to be exalted. Fredrich Nietzsche 1844 to 1900. The quote, "He that humbleth himself wishes to be exalted," reveals Nietzsche's characteristic psychological depth and critique of human behavior. At first glance, it might seem paradoxical, but it speaks to a profound understanding of human nature and hidden motivations. Psychological interpretation. The quote exposes the potential insincerity behind performative humility. It suggests that what appears to be self-deprecation might actually be a subtle form of self-promotion. Nietzsche challenges the notion of genuine humility, seeing it instead as a manipulative social strategy. Philosophical context. This observation is consistent with Nietzsche's broader philosophical critiques of social conventions, moral hypocrisy, the complex psychology behind human behavior, the often unconscious motivations that drive human actions. Practical examples. Someone who constantly downplays their achievements, but ensures they are always mentioned. A person who speaks softly about their talents while strategically positioning themselves to receive praise. Religious or social practices where public humility is a path to respect and admiration. Nietzsche is revealing the potential inauthenticity in human interactions. He suggests that even in moments of apparent self-diminishment, there can be an underlying desire for recognition, status, or power. Team quote 47.8. As a cure for worrying, work is better than whiskey. Ralph Waldo Emerson 1803 to 1882. That's an insightful quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, the famous American essayist, philosopher, and poet. The quote suggests that productive work can be a more constructive and healthy way to manage anxiety and stress, compared to drinking alcohol as an escape. Emerson was a key figure in the Transcendentalist movement, which emphasized individual intuition, spiritual connection with nature, and personal growth. This quote reflects his belief in the value of meaningful work as a form of personal therapy and self-improvement. Instead of seeking temporary relief through alcohol, Emerson advocates for channeling one's energy into purposeful activity as a more sustainable and fulfilling way to address inner turmoil. The wisdom in this quote remains relevant today. Modern psychology supports the idea that engaging in meaningful work can provide a sense of purpose, boost self-esteem, distract from negative thoughts, create a sense of achievement, promote mental well-being. Would you like to discuss Emerson's philosophy further, or explore the relationship between work, stress, and personal well-being? And to help raise school test scores and confidence with free easy extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with octa repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free easy alpha cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like Pretty Witty Baby Onesies and Pretty Witty Kids. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence, sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think, therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city, or state. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom. Make us all wiser and kinder. And for a downloadable PDF of these team quotes, join the 52 of 8 today.